Earlier on in my guitar journey, I knew that scales were the foundation of guitar solos. I even knew that soloing could be approached by matching scales to corresponding keys. The main problem I faced was that I did not know how to write a solo in a musical way. I badly wanted to be able to write a memorable, face-melting masterpiece that almost served as a mini-song within a song. After all, isn't that why all aspiring shredders pick up a guitar in the first place? Today, I'm going to give you some hot tips on how to write solos you can be proud of. Like all things worth learning, solo composition is a craft that takes time to develop. I'd even argue it's a lifelong learning process. You cannot get to where you want to be without making consistent progress. To help you with that, I want to give you my free guitar gains cheat sheet to go along with this lesson. It gives you my best scientifically based hacks on how to make consistent progress, conquer any goal, and eliminate poor practice habits such as practicing in waves. Just click the link in the description or go to zachsharguitar.com and download this awesome free resource. Then come back and we can learn how to write a radical shred piece. What are diatonic scales? Well, basically, they're your 7-note scales, such as your major and minor scales, as well as all the modes. And when writing a solo, you've got a couple different directions you can take when it comes to how you jump from note to note. You can use conjunct motion or disjunct motion, and oftentimes a good solo includes both methods. Conjunct motion is a linear approach to sequencing notes in a melody. It involves playing the notes in a sequential order without skipping any notes as you ascend or descend your way through a scale. Conjunct motion may be the way to go for you if you're just starting out. Practice ascending and descending your way through the scales and gradually increase your speed in doing so over time. The downside with conjunct motion is that it can be difficult to use it in a way that's musical, in a way that stands out, especially if you're just ascending or descending through many notes at a time. That's because it can sound more like you're practicing guitar instead of performing or writing something, because you're just running through scales. However, you can make conjunct motion more interesting by periodically changing the directionality of your notes. Disjunct motion, on the other hand, involves greater jumps or skips between notes. The intervals played during this type of musical motion are greater than a step or a half step. This allows more variety in shred sequences, and they often present as really cool sounding licks. And disjunct motion is often the best next step after getting familiar with new scales. It's easier to use this type of motion in a more musical way because it's easier to prevent your solos from sounding like basic practice exercises. For example, instead of climbing your way sequentially to get from one note to another in a scale, you can travel that distance by ascending or descending through the scale by skipping in thirds. Another thing I like to make sure I do when I'm writing a guitar solo is to emphasize the right notes and let them sing. To do this, it's really important that you know the chords you're soloing over. And when you're wanting to emphasize a note, it's important to make sure that that note is a part of a chord in a way that creates consonance. For example, if you're soloing over a C-sharp power chord, you can emphasize the root of that chord by landing on a higher pitched C-sharp note. And to give it a little bit of extra character, you can always give it some vibrato. Last and certainly not least, another insanely important consideration for you to keep in mind when you're writing a guitar solo is to make sure you have some rhythmic variation inside of it. This is a great way to really reduce the probability of people thinking that it's just some practice exercise that you're going through. For example, I'm going to descend my way by skipping in thirds in a way that uses an eighth note rhythm pattern. From there, I'm going to use an ascending run in a way that uses triplets. Now I'm going to show you a small sample of what all the concepts in this lesson look like when put together. Once you've given yourself a strong foundation by learning common diatonic scales, practicing solid technique, and understanding intervals, you can start putting the concepts in this lesson to practice right away and coming up with your own solos. By blending conjunct motion with disjunct motion, letting the right notes sing, and by adding rhythmic variation, you can give yourself an endless supply of ideas on writing musical, memorable guitar solos. You can even use the shred sequence I used in this lesson to inspire your own ideas. This is something that's definitely going to take some time and a lot of practice to get the hang of. I encourage you to do yourself a favor and make it a goal to write your first or your next guitar solo this month. You can use my free guitar gains cheat sheet to help you get started with this because it includes a completely customizable goal setting template. It also includes other scientifically based hacks to help you make consistent progress and to eliminate poor practice habits such as practicing in waves. Just click the link in the description or go to zachsharguitar.com and download this awesome free resource. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Zach with Zach Shar Guitar, and I will see you in the next one.